As that BYU-Utah game played out, I feel like I was watching the same old story from BYU. They'd come up just a little bit short and have an agonizing loss on Utah's home turf. And then the Cougars flipped the script. We're talking about a big win for the BYU football program on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. And as always, thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. This is a special edition postcast as BYU beats Utah 22-21. The BYU Cougars are now 9-0 on the season and almost certain to move up in the national rankings when the new college football playoff rankings are revealed early next week. But that's all for future talk. What a win it was for BYU. As I said in the open, this was a storyline, this game. BYU struggling, unable seemingly to find answers for the issues that were affecting them against the Utes. It felt like it was just a storyline that I'd seen time and time again. Remember back to 2010 when Brandon Burton blocked the field goal, the crowd storming the field 3 times. This is a history for BYU stretching back to 2006. That was the last time BYU beat Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And what happened in that 06 game? Oh, yes, and maybe the most incredible single play in BYU football history with John Beck finding Johnny Harlan alone in that end zone. Crazy, crazy things. And it felt like BYU was destined to come up oh so short. Blocked a 2-point conversion from Taysom Hill. Was that in 2016, if I recall correctly? The history was not on BYU's side, if you believe that history is an indicator of the future. And then the Cougars flipped it completely on its head. I got to give massive props to Kalani Sitake and his program. This is a team. Yes, we talk often about teams of destiny in college football. This BYU team, they are a team of destiny right now. Now, have they accomplished really anything of note? Outside of winning their rivalry game, that's obviously a big win for BYU. Now they have 2 straight wins over the Utes, stretching back to 2021, the last 2 times these 2 programs have played together. That's an accomplishment. But beyond that, what has BYU truthfully accomplished? They're bowl eligible. That's obviously an accomplishment. But their goals are all still in front of them. They have 3 more games this season, starting next week against Kansas. Then they go to Arizona State, and then they're home to Houston. And BYU has to handle their business. They got a big leg up, obviously, with Iowa State getting beat by Kansas, which gives BYU a fairly comfortable margin to find their way to Arlington, even if they do absorb a loss in the future. But wow, what a game. BYU found a way somehow, and I'm still baffled at how it all unfolded. Yes, there are copious amounts. My social media feeds are littered with Utah fans just absolutely just beside themselves over that defensive holding call. If you read the defensive holding, what the explanation is in the rule book, if you redirect a player, put your hands on them outside of that 5-yard buffer zone that the college ranks allow for, and you redirect a player or cause them to be, as they say, unable to adequately catch a pass, it's defensive holding. You can argue spirit versus letter of the law. The simple fact of the matter is the flag came out, it was called. And for Mark Harlan to walk up to the podium unprompted and to rip the officiating, saying this game was, quote, stolen from us, unquote, baffling in its own right. And we'll talk more about that momentarily. But let's celebrate the fact that BYU won. This is a team, once again, this BYU team, folks, they are continuing to show just different, incredible ways to find a way. Simply, they just find a way. Merrill Hodge uses that a lot, the former Idaho State great and Pittsburgh Steeler, now turned broadcaster, uses the term find a way. That's what BYU did. They simply found a way to win this game. Will Ferrin, he's become an absolute legend already in his pretty short run at BYU. That kick will forever cement him as a legend in BYU fans' hearts and minds. You also have to look at the situation for BYU with regards to how they got a kick return for a touchdown. You needed something to generate extra points. Well, Keelan Marion, for the second time this season, returns a kick for a touchdown. Kelly Papinga continues to have this magic touch with BYU special teams. BYU's defense absolutely stonewalled and just absolutely obliterated Utah's offense in the second half. Utah had 180 yards at halftime total yards. They actually outgained BYU in the first half when they piled up a 21-10 lead. They had 180 total yards at halftime. How many yards did they have in the second half? If you don't know the answer, it's 79. Elite defense. You can't take anything away from this BYU squad. They continue, once again, to show that they have got what it takes to be a power player out there. Is the College Football Playoff Committee going to recognize that? Who the freak cares right now? Y'all beat the Utes. That is something that Cougar fans remember. There was a 9-game losing streak not that long ago that stretched well over a decade. It was 12 years between wins for BYU and 9 games. In that span that BYU did not win this game, and it was agonizing. It was absolutely agonizing to watch some of those losses for BYU. Guess what? Utah can be on the agonizing end of this, and they absolutely are. They are beside themselves. So just if you don't on social media, be happy or not, because they are a miserable bunch right now. I understand it. They feel like they got screwed. Great. Guess what? Life's not fair. BYU's been on the short end of calls before. Utah will be on the short end of future ones as well. Simple fact of life is that nothing that anybody says, whether it's Mark Harlan, Kyle Whittingham, Brett Yormark, I don't care who it is, nothing changes the fact that there is a W next to the name of BYU and a big fat L next to the University of Utah, who are now 4-5, and more importantly, 1-5 in the conference that, quote, they were going to run. Great. You guys are going to run it. You're going to run to the bottom of the standings? That's what you're running for right now. Now, Oklahoma State is the only team worse than Utah right now at a woeful 0-7 in the league. But what a win for BYU. Jake Retzlaff, people keep bagging on this kid because he hasn't passed for over 250 yards against a Power 5 opponent. Who cares? For the 5th straight game, he sat between 218 and 228 yards, and yet again, BYU wins. The Cougars are 9-0. Put some respect on BYU's name. I don't know what it's going to take. I know that BYU hasn't been all flash and sizzle and pop and all this. They're not sexy, I guess is the best way to say it. They don't play this high-flying offensive style that is obliterating teams. So be it. They're still winning the dang football games. Like, I don't mean to come off haughty or over the top or just being a you-know-what, but the simple fact of life is BYU is a winning football team. You can't take that away from them. I'm very impressed with how BYU goes about their business. And the other thing about it is, as this game progressed, the first half, Kyle Whittingham and his coaches, they got it over on BYU. They somehow generated 21 points. Remember, Utah has averaged 23 points all season long. It's their, up to this game, the 4-game losing streak they had, they're averaging a woeful 12.5 points per game. So they outgunned a lot of their expectations. They piled up those 21 points in the second quarter, but in the second half, Jay Hill, as he often does, found answers, and BYU shut out Utah. Really, really impressive stuff. Also, Aaron Roderick, he decided to go to the 2-minute offense at different points during that second half, and it worked for BYU. BYU ends up with 339 total yards. They're not one of those teams that's going to pile up 500 yards routinely. That's just not this BYU team right now. But 219 yards passing, 120 yards rushing, very balanced overall, once again, offensively. LJ Martin, 11 carries for 68 yards. Hinkley Ropati, 8 carries for 38 yards. They got what they needed in this game. And the crazy thing about it is BYU got 0 sacks on the night. They did have 5 tackles for loss. It felt like Utah had that game won when they sacked Jake Retzlaff on the half-yard line or the 1-inch line, whatever it was. But when that flag came out, it completely changed the game. Utah had every opportunity from that point to still stop BYU. They still had a chance to block a kick. We have seen BYU doink a kick off the uprights in 2012. Was that Riley Stevenson that doinked it off the upright? And then in 2010, Mitch Payne got it blocked by Brandon Burton. We have seen BYU come down to the wire against Utah and have a game-winning kick and it go awry. Didn't go right tonight, and BYU is the victor. They move ahead, and I can tell you that anybody involved with the BYU football program, they don't give a flying flip about what Utah thinks. They got the dub. Now they focus on Kansas and get ready to go to 10-0, hopefully, come next Saturday night / early Sunday morning. Crazy scenes in Salt Lake City, but any of you Cougar fans who made the trek up there, Hope you had a fantastic time. There have been a number of you who came by the tailgate, and it was good to see you guys. I hope you that braved going up to the famed Rice-Eccles Stadium, you got rewarded in a big way with a big dub for BYU football. All right. I got to address the elephant in the room. What in the world got into Utah? Where did they get off doing what they did post-game, particularly the guy who, runs the whole athletic department? And we'll delve into that momentarily. There's a couple of things I'd like to see BYU improve on. We'll get to that as well as Locked On Cougars rolls on. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is here for you guys to have some fun this NFL season. They've got an incredible offer for you guys to take advantage of the NFL season ongoing. And what it is, you put a $5 bet up, and if it wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. Easy as that. That's an incredible offer, and it's all from our friends at FanDuel, as they are America's #1 sportsbook. More importantly, you can go on the page where you're placing your bets, see live play-by-play, the latest stats. So if you're placing a bet, you got a hunch about something, you're placing that bet, and you want to make sure that what you're thinking is right, stats-wise, etc. You can see right there on the same page where you're placing that bet. That's what FanDuel is here for. Really simple and easy-to-use app. You can take advantage, once again, a $5 bet. If it wins, $150 put into your account as bonus bets. Simple as that. So go check it out today. That's FanDuel.com to get started today. Once again, check them out at FanDuel.com. Of course, they are a proud sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. All right. Mark Harlan. I don't know I've ever seen anything like what he did. Now, the NCAA mandates that coaches and players have a mandatory 10-minute cooling off period after games. That now needs to be extended to athletic directors, apparently, because Mark Harlan, unprompted, walked to the podium, by the way, after he was caught essentially chastising the officiating crew walking off the field. By the way, that game ended with an unsportsmanlike conduct call. Who was that called on? It was the Utah sideline. Was that Mark Harlan saying something to the referee they felt was egregious and over the top? Because we saw Kyle Whittingham barking at the referees after this game. Kevin Marr, who's the white hat, had a finger waggle from Mark Harlan in his face after this one. And then Mark Harlan marches right to the podium. And Patrick Kinahan, who I work with on a daily basis at the KSL Sports Zone, said he was typing a story. I didn't even notice that Mark Harlan walked in. All of a sudden he starts talking. And just an incredible scene. And I'm going to read the quote here because I'm not sure I can use the video without YouTube flagging. So I'll just read the actual quote from Mark Harlan. And he says this, quote, "I've been an athletic director for 12 years. This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not." He continued, "We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner," speaking of Brett Yormark, Big 12 commissioner. "This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight. Thank you." And then off he storms in a huff, unquote. Newsflash, Mark Harlan. Kevin Marr, Pac-12 official. He followed y'all from the Pac-12. You want to get mad at the officiating in this game? Blame the officials that came over from your woebegone conference that you left and did not want to leave, by the way. That quote right there. "We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not," unquote. There's a little conference that you left that is looking to rebuild itself and still needs, a new member. Maybe you want to join the Pac-12 again? Question mark? That's sore loser stuff. You don't do that. Kyle Whittingham got up and was more measured in his comments. I think he decided to let what Harlan said. And by the way, Harlan will be reprimanded. There will be a statement coming from the Big 12. Maybe by the time most of you watch and or listen to this, that reprimand is out. And I would fully expect there's a fine being levied against Utah, and in particular, Mark Harlan, for those comments. You do not call into question the officiating, no matter how suspect it may have been in your opinion. You just cannot do it across all leagues, all sports. They do not allow you to call officiating into question. There have been times I have watched some very curious officiating happen, both against BYU and in favor of BYU. I've rewatched that play multiple times, and to me, it's a letter of the law call. I get where Utah is bent about the fact that it should have been a no call and was inconsistent all game long. And guess what? Ifs and buts or candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. There was a face mask called against Isaiah Glasker that I will go down to my dying day saying that he had the inside of Brandon Rose's jersey, not the face mask. He may have grazed said face mask, But when he ultimately dragged Brandon Rose down for what appeared to be a huge sack in the second quarter, that was not a face mask for me. What happened on that ensuing series? Oh, yes, Utah punched it in for a touchdown. Take that away, take 7 points away, take 3 points away from BYU that won the game. Guess who comes out on top? Oh, still BYU. It is sore loser, you know what, from I want to say Kevin Harlan, Mark Harlan, not the famed announcer, Kevin Harlan, Mark Harlan. The other thing about this is we heard from Mekhi Bernard that he knew what was wrong inside the Utah locker room after their loss to Houston a couple of weeks ago, but he wouldn't expound on what it is. Attitude reflects leadership. We have that famous quote from Remember the Titans. If this is the stuff coming from the top of Utah athletics, what's happening with the coaching staff? What's happening in the locker room? Yeah, it feels like it's little wonder why Utah may be watching their season absolutely crumble and just absolutely, they're miserable. There's a very high likelihood at this juncture that Utah doesn't go bowling. For the preseason Big 12 favorite to go from being a team that was being talked about as a dark horse to win the national championship to missing out on a bowl game, what a fall from grace that would be. And oh, by the way, this is also the same university that has in their leadership a famed business professor turned university president, Taylor Randall, that if you believe the reports out there, remember that whole thing about the Pac-12 believed they were worth like $50 to $55 million based on an economist projection. That's what the Pac-12 was chasing at the time. Yeah, according to John Canzano, who's one of the more homerific writers that was covering the Pac-12 during that incredible saga of the conference falling apart. You know who, made that evaluation? Oh, yeah, some guy named Taylor Randall. Utah is grasping at anything they can right now. And maybe Mark Harlan's trying to take the heat off Kyle Whittingham. He said, I'll take this one. I'm going to take the bullet for the team tonight, Kyle. Maybe that's what he was trying to do in this circumstance. But it comes off as a really, really ugly look. That's going to be played for years to come. He cannot escape those comments. I'm fully expecting a retraction, a statement coming out from him, whether he writes it of his own volition or it comes out from university leadership, whoever it is, there will be a retraction of his comments, but it also will accompany a public reprimand from the Big 12 conference, and also a fine will likely be levied because you just don't do what he did. I have never seen an athletic director do that. I have seen coaches call out officiating. I've seen it all the time. We have seen guys like Denny Green in the NFL. If you want to make them champions, crown their asses. Like there's been comments like that in the past. But athletic directors are supposed to be kind of the voice of reason and maybe talk a coach down in a heated moment. But now, for the last 2 tenures of athletic directors at Utah, they have made comments that are going to make national headlines. Remember, there was a famous clip. Now, it wasn't directly into a microphone in front of the media, but Dr. Chris Hill was caught on a live mic in a Larry Kraskowiak postgame press conference screaming at the director of officials for the Pac-12. Was it Bobby Dibbler, whatever his name is? Or it's not the Pac-12, it was like the Western Officiating Consortium. Apologize for that burp there, but he's, you know that, Bobby. And Larry Kraskowiak's like, whoa, that's not one of our people, I don't think. It was your athletic director ripping the director of officials. It's not a good look for Utah. And I know I'm a BYU podcast and it'll come off as me jumping on their grave. You just don't do that. You cannot do that. That is an awful, objectively awful look for the University of Utah. And oh, by the way, you have given we're talking thousands of hours and millions of page views and clicks to the quote unquote truck stop conference that Utah reportedly did not want to be in. You've given all the fans that want to essentially tell Utah, hey, don't let the door hit you on the way out, multitudes of ammo with those comments tonight. It's not a good look for the University of Utah. And like I said, I fully expect there will be a retraction coming from Mark Harlan saying, well, in the heat of the moment, great, so be it. Comments are still out there. And oh, by the way, I work in sports radio. We will use those for years to come. I can assure you of that very fact. All right. It is your guys' time to shine. You got to have your say on this. I asked for a reaction via our Locked On Cougars Insider group in the post game, and y'all didn't disappoint. And we'll wrap up this special postcast edition of Locked On Cougars, Rivalry Edition, next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Now, if you want to get to an event like BYU or Utah, maybe next week you want to go watch BYU take on Kansas, our friends at Game Time can help you do that. But more importantly, even if it's not just sports, comedy shows, music concerts, theater events, whatever you're into, Game Time has got the options for you guys in their simple-to-use app. My favorite feature is their brand new Game Time Picks feature. All it does is it filters through all the fluff. There's thousands of tickets out there on the market. It finds the right and best options for you, suggests them to you. You buy them, you're on your way to the event. More importantly, you also can toggle the all-in pricing feature inside the Game Time app, and it'll show you exactly what you're paying up front, fees included. I hate buying tickets online, all of a sudden seeing an avalanche of fees tacked on when I get to the checkout screen. It's not the case with our friends at Game Time. So take it to the guesswork out of buying your tickets and do it with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply, obviously, but download the app today. And of course, what time is it? It's game time. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. All right, it's y'all's time to shine. If you have not signed up for our Locked On Cougars Insider Group, you are missing out. It is an absolutely incredible time to be interacting with y'all via text message. But let's just get to these different things being said. Tyson College here. Great thought here. Iconic win. That's his first thought, but a really messy game. BYU is unrecognized on both sides of the ball for 50 plus minutes of gameplay. Nevertheless, it takes a special team to play poorly and still find a way to win. BYU will be a better team from experiencing this, praying that Kime's injury is not serious. Now, that was ugly. Braden Kime had Zemiah Vaughn, who, funny enough, later committed that defensive holding call, come on a corner blitz, and Jake Retzlaff held on the ball just a touch too long, and Zemiah Vaughn sacks him and then crashes into the back part of Braden Kime's leg/knee. And it's, as a guy who played offensive line, I had a guy roll up into my leg once. I just put it this way. My right knee, I'm now 37 years old, and that happened nearly 20 years ago. My right knee's never been the same since then. I sincerely pray and hope that Braden Kime's injury is not serious. Austin Leusa, who also got injured in that game, we actually saw him come back into the game, so that was positive that he was able to return, but I really do hope for Braden Kime. But to your point, Tyson, it was an ugly game. Objectively, BYU did not play their best game. In fact, far from it, but they still found a way to win, and I really, really did like that BYU found a way to win. Jake, by the way, I'm sorry, but Utah's AD is a POS. Says he got cheated out of a win. Well, if he believes he got cheated out of a win, what role does he play on that? He's not coaching. He essentially is there as a super fan. That is what an AD is in that circumstance. So I guess for him to say that, it's a bad look. Kent Holm, what do you think of Mark Harlan said? I've never heard anything like that from an athletic director. I hadn't either. It was absolutely incredible. Crazy stuff. Tom Porter, can't believe the comments from Utah's AD about the game being stolen from them. What a, and all capitals, classless comment. Let's see. Geez, there's so many. Let's see. Man, the cardiac kids from David McDonough. Riker Wright, did you see what the AD said? Yeah, I did see that. Tanner Mortimer, that Utah defense was solid. Like you always say, Jake, it's easier to teach after a win. Hopefully this helps the offense improve. That game took years off my life. It is easier to teach after a win. And yes, Utah's defense, I have no problem saying that's the best defense BYU has faced all season long. Bar none, full stop, period, end of story. That is the best defense BYU played all year and very well may play the rest of the year. The fatal flaw for Utah is they have a wildly inconsistent other two phases of the game, offensively and special teams. They are not playing complementary football. BYU has thrived on playing complementary football. And to the point earlier, I think it was from Tyson, it was not complimentary football for BYU. It was disjointed. It was not BYU's finest effort out there. But I really do think that BYU did the job that they needed to do. Our good friend Royals Cougars. I am nominating Will Farron for the recipient of the $100 Roy donation this week. Return on you. You can go to Roy, download the app today and contribute some money to Will Farron. I've got a suspicion that Royal Cougars, you're right, because I got to make that nomination. And I think I'm just going to do what you just said because I was already planning on that. Gary Gabriel, this came in at like 12:25 a.m. It's now well past 3 a.m. when I'm recording. It's almost 4 a.m. Mountain Time. My heart is still pounding. Yeah, I'm buzzing, and it's 4 a.m., folks. I got church in a little bit. Oh, by the way, I'm teaching elders quorum today. That's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm going to want to go prepare that lesson. All right, let's see other things. Brandon Morrill, I probably need to talk to my bishop tomorrow for all my swears. I don't think you're alone, Brandon. I think a lot of Cougar fans may have let a few ones go. Jaden Priest, Jay Hill's defense is still elite. Made the adjustments at halftime. He proves yet again, Jay Hill absolutely proves yet again that when the chips are down, he finds a way to get his guys back on the same page, and they did that all the time. Let's see. Jake Castle, I had 118 beats per minute in my living room after that during that last drive. I am normally sitting in the 60s. I can't believe it. You're not wrong. Jensen, calls on third down need to be fixed. And also, A-Rod seems to give up on drives when it's third and long. BYU's third down percentage is not pretty. Was it 1 of 12? Yeah, 1 of 12. Oof, oof, oof. Ugly. They had a really good week against UCF, but they're right back into the doghouse when it comes to third down conversions. Paul Nielsen, it's a miracle that they won with all the mistakes that were made. Agreed. Jerry Mooney, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Miracle. Good teams win. All right. Let's see. Morgan, I am still screaming, what a game. Cougs can win pretty, they can win ugly, but boy, can they win. That's the best point I think made right there. They just find a way. I really do love that. Josh Hales, faith precedes the miracle. Hey, magic happens if you're living right on and off the field. I love that Austin Collie tweeted after this game, told you, #magic happens. Brilliant stuff. So, Andrew, I seriously think I have a heart condition now. I sincerely hope you don't, Andrew. I don't mean to make light of that. I hope you don't, but crazy stuff. Justin Openshaw, Hill's second half adjustment made the difference. No scores for Utah. Dead on with that. Man, Curtis, team of destiny. It's all I have to say. BYU shot itself in the foot over and over, but somehow magic happened. It did. BYU found a way despite killing themselves a lot. So crazy stuff. Just purely unbelievable is also what he adds. Some good fortune was shining on BYU. I will freely admit that. Marlon Shaw, I was waiting for the doink off the goalpost. I think all of us, like I said, I started out today's show. I have seen that script play out time after time after time in this Utah rivalry series up at Utah. And BYU flipped that script and completely changed it and flipped it on its head. Jason, I have never shaken like this before from a football game. I can hardly type. Go Cougars. Huge win. Oh, Jeff. All right, here we go. This theme of the week on Come Follow Me this week was miracles still occur this day according to our faith in God's will. I found myself repeatedly praying those words in the second half, and this was one miracle after another. BYU recovered 2 fumbles they had no business recovering in many respects. The ball bounced right into the hands of BYU's players. Let's see. Oh, jeez. Ben says this got told F BYU about 100 times tonight. I'm assuming, Ben, you went to the game. I had a curve swerve and try and hit us on the way out. Well, I sincerely hope not, but all worth it. Crying, laughing emoji. Man, what a win. I don't know much more of what I can really say on this than what's already been said, but a big win for BYU all the same. Robert, wow. I can't believe it. Just wow. Adrian, I can't believe it. I hate to admit this, but I turned the TV off after the sack at the end zone. Luckily, I saw a tweet that the penalty was called amazing. Holy war. Holy crap. Where's the Tylenol? I added where's the Tylenol for Christmas vacation reference. All right. So what a night. And like I said, we're looking at what are these? And I've got 130 other texts that came in on our Locked On Cougars Insider group I could have rolled through. I'd be here for 4 more hours when the sun comes up if I read through all those. So sincerely, thank you for all the interaction. And what a win it was for BYU. And the nice part is the Cougs, they found a way. They're 9-0. They move forward now. And now you get ready for Kansas. And Jeff Grimes coming back to Provo, Utah, as the OC of Kansas. And oh, by the way, the Kansas Jayhawks scored 45 points against a pretty vaunted Iowa State defense in a big win. BYU better be ready, folks. They've got to prepare themselves, and I'm sure they'll spend this next week nursing some wounds. Because, by the way, that was a wildly physical football game as well. Both those teams, BYU and Utah, they're going to need some extra cold tub time, rehab, and the like to get back to 100% from that. And those are the type of games that seem to affect teams longer than just 1 week. So crazy stuff. And I'm going to give this, okay, one final word. I just saw this from Chad. The Vampire Cougs strike again. I was so off on my prediction. But I do not even care. This team is legendary. Way to freaking go, Cougs. It's a big win, everybody. So celebrate it. And we will reconvene, I guess, tomorrow at this point. This coming out, most of y'all are waking up. But nonetheless, crazy stuff and a big win for BYU all the same. Have a great night. Have a great day. Whenever you watch and or listen to this, as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. And as always, thank you for being everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.